It's me, Larry Red, back with another video. Sorry, I've been gone for a bit. Just been busy wrapping up some school stuff, getting ready for finals. But anyways, I finished a book, another book. And for a change, it's a book that I have some good things to say about. Usually I'm just negative, lately at least. But this book was pretty good. The book, of course, was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So, what's this book about? You probably have heard of it. It's a pretty popular book. I think they're making a Netflix thing about it. I don't really understand. But it's about thieves. It seems like a lot of books and movies are about thieves these days. But that's cool. So, anyways, it's about this guy named Kaz Breka, and the setting is like sort of a magical sort of East or not a magical sort of European sort of time. And this guy Kaz Breka, he lives in Ketterdam, which is sort of like an analogous sort of city for Amsterdam, and he's like the head of this gang, and he's like a genius criminal. He's like the best to ever do it. He's like super cool, uh, super scary, kind of a bad guy, but also like in a good way. Like we're supposed to like him, I think. But he's like very cold and like sort of dark. He's like a mysterious figure. He's also like 17, which is a little weird. Because I've met 17-year-olds, and they may be scary, but they're not very intimidating. Um, anyways, the main sort of plot of this book is Kaz has to get together a team of six people. That's why it's called Six of Crows, people, in order to pull off this heist. And the heist is sort of, a little convoluted. It's not for money. They're trying to steal this guy from a prison in like another country, and like it's supposed to be like Sweden, I think. It's called like Fjärde. It's supposed to be like Sweden, I think, or like Norway. But they have to steal this guy out of a prison because he's like this genius scientist who has made this new drug. And that's another important part of this book. They're like these magical people. Some people are born with magic. It's just how it goes sometimes. So some people are born with magic, called Grisha, and they have like special powers and stuff. But then this guy, Boyul Bayar, I think is his name. He's like created this super drug that's super addictive, but it also gives these magic people like really good powers. And the people in Ketterdam, they only care about money, just like the real Dutch people. Just kidding. That was not cool. That's a stereotype about Amsterdam being just about money. That's not true. There was also a lot of coffee. But anyways, they just care about money, so they hire this guy. They're worried that if the secret of this thing gets out, um, that it'll like hurt the economy somehow. It's kind of confusing. Uh, yeah, but anyways, they're worried that it's going to hurt the economy somehow. I'm not an economist. I don't know. So they have this guy Kaz Brecker. The government officials in Ketterdam ask Kaz Brecker to make a team. Excuse me, to break this guy out of jail and bring him back to Ketterdam. So that's what the book is really about. Excuse me, and I mean that's what the plot is about. The book is really about the team that Kaz gets together and the dynamics within them. So I guess I'll go through the list of people. You got Jesper or Jesper, I don't really know. He's like their shooter guy. He's like a gun shooter. He's a sniper. A sniper is the word. He's like things about him. He's like a gambler. He's addicted to gambling. And he likes to shoot guns. Not the best character, in my opinion. Interesting, somewhat. Then there's Nina. Nina's one of those magic people, and she's able to like kill people like with her hands, like stop their heart. A little confusing. Um, then there's this guy Matthias Helvar. A lot of funny names in this book, which I like. And he is like Fjerden. The Fjerdens really don't like the magic people. So he doesn't really like Nina, but he also does like Nina. Obviously, because we have to have that sort of trope in there. And then there's oh, what does Matthias do? I don't really. Oh, he knows about like the place that they're trying to break into because he's from there. Then there's Inej, I think is her name, and she's like good at climbing things. And they need that. Let's see. Then there's Wylan Van Eck, who is like the son of the guy who sent them on this whole mission. So they kind of have him as leverage, and he also knows how to like make things blow up. He's like a bomb maker. And then there's Kaz, who's like I don't know, he's the planner. He's just good at everything. And that's the six people. And where the book really shines is when like they're not actually talking about the heist; they're talking about like the relationships between these people and like their past. That stuff is pretty interesting, actually. and it does a cool job of like building the world. Where the book, where I do like the book, I said I'm not going to complain the whole time, but I do have some complaints. The, the whole like plot of them breaking into this place, the ice court where the guy's being held, and their whole plan is very confusing. I couldn't follow it like at all. And look, there's always the possibility that I'm a moron and stupid, and that it's my fault for not being able to understand it, and it's actually really well written and clear. But to me, it made like very little sense. Like the author kind of gives you like this diagram of the place they're trying to break into at the beginning, which I like. I like maps. So the author kind of gives you this, but like it doesn't really help you follow anything. Because the plan is just very confusing. I don't really there's like parts of it that I didn't understand at all. Um, so yeah, but luckily for the book, I can forgive that because they do two things really well. They do the journey scene where they have to Fjerda, like Ketterdam is like on an island, so they have to like take a boat to get to Fjerda. And that those like 50 pages were pretty good when they're on the boat. I love reading about travels. I like mystery or not mystery, like adventure books that like half of the book is just them like traveling. Because it's a good time to like sort of flesh out the characters and be interesting. Like, for example, The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin does this super good. Like, a lot of people say that that book is about like gender and like politics and stuff, and it is, but it's also about traveling through a really cold place and being cold. And that part is really good. Like, if you've ever read that book, you know what I'm talking about. It's a great book, highly recommend it. But like my favorite part about that book is when the two main characters are just like camping in like the Arctic in like negative 40 degrees and they're just like walking. And it's just the best part of the book. Because you really just get to know the characters. And I think this book does a good job of that. The sort of, journeys. The journey is well written. Uh Another book that does that good is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I mean, basically the whole book is basically like these people on a ship, on a starship, like traveling and telling each other their life stories. It's sort of like uh, it's supposed to be like a Geoffrey Chaucer type of thing, but sci-fi. That's another really good book. Anyways, this book. But yeah, so I guess like the first 200 pages are pretty good. You're like learning about the characters. Then from like page 250 to 400, kind of is just like confusing and like I don't really understand what's going on while they're doing their heist. And then so I was like after reading that, I was like, oh man, this book, I'm gonna complain about it again. I'm gonna be a jerk. I'm gonna be like 3 stars or whatever. But then the last 60 pages were really good. And there's apparently a sequel to this book. I probably won't read it just because I don't know. I feel like I'm getting old for this sort of like young adult fantasy. It's just weird reading about like 15, 16, 17 year olds. Not that I'm that much older. I'm like 20. Like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say my exact age. Larry Red is very secretive. But yeah, it's just kind of weird reading about them. I don't know why. They just seem a little immature. Um, c- I'm super mature. But anyways, yeah, I'm probably not gonna read the sequel. But the ending of the book was pretty good. Sort of left you on a cliffhanger. So yeah, I mean, would I recommend this book? If you like fantasy, if you like YA fantasy, which a lot of people do, and this is a pretty good exemplar of the genre. You should definitely read this book. If you don't like YA fantasy, you probably shouldn't read this book. And if you're not sure about YA fantasy, it's probably a good place to start. It's pretty good. I would warn that, like, I don't know, at least for me, the middle part was kind of weird, but I really like the characters. I think the author does except for some of them are kind of boring, but I think the author does a pretty good job of telling you their stories in a pretty fun way. Yeah, I would have liked to have some more about like, some more world building. I think this is sort of like set in a universe that she'd written about, to be fair, that I hadn't read the other books for. But yeah, still a pretty good book. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna give it 4 stars because I liked the ending and I liked this part where they talked about the characters and their sort of histories. That was a good part. Um, oh, the other thing I should mention is this book is like written from like I think technically 7 different perspectives, but mostly from 5. Each chapter takes a different person's perspective. I like that because you get to know more about each character sort of individually, but it also kind of makes it more confusing because like you're constantly, not constantly, but you're shifting perspectives and like the plan is like sort of every person has a different part of the plan and it's sort of hard to see how it comes together. So there's pros and cons to that. But yeah, before I go, I'm gonna say right now I'm reading some nonfiction stuff for school. But after that, I'm gonna read Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. This one, let's see, this won the Hugo Award in 2020. I've heard it's very good. I'll read the back. Ambassador Mahit Bismar travels to the capital of the interstellar Texacalanli Empire, eager to make up her new post. She arrives only to discover that her predecessor has died, and no one will admit that his death wasn't accidental, or that Mahit might be next. Now Mahit must discover who is behind the murder, rescue herself, and save her small but fiercely independent mining station from Texacalan's unceasing expansion, all while navigating an alien culture that is all too seductive, engaging in intrigues of her own and hiding a deadly technological secret, one that might spell the end of her station and her way of life, or rescue it from annihilation. So I'm really excited about this book. It looks really cool. The cover looks great. It won the Hugo. So that's exciting. I'm really excited to read this after I finish with some school stuff. But anyways, I promised that I would give a shout out to someone in my comments. She gets really mad because she comments on every video. Her name is Josie. And yeah, I promised I would shout her out. So Josie, you get a shout out. Not really a good lesson that I'm setting here, that if you annoy me enough in the comments, I'll give you a shout out. But maybe it'll encourage more people to comment. Anyways, have a good day, guys. Enjoy.